Welcome to The Catholic Perspective, a podcast brought to you by rcspirituality.org. Enjoy the episode.
Some straight talk about true philosophy, Part 1.
Charlie Chaplin's immortal 1930 film, Modern Times, starts out with a haunting image. You see a crowd of men gathered in front of a tall fence surrounding a factory. They're waiting for the workday to begin. Then the whistle blows, the gate opens, and the men scramble to get in. Chaplin shows the scene from above, so you get a good view of the disorganized, jostling crowd, although you can't see their faces. As you watch, this crowd of faceless workers is transformed into a flock of sheep, scrambling and jostling through the gate. The image summarizes the film's message. Modern times are dehumanizing. They turn people into sheep. The image is haunting in itself because the visual parallel, as Chaplin composed it, is so convincing. But it's also haunting because its message rings too true. The modern world, by creating a culture that equates happiness with economic success, has been waging guerrilla warfare against the human spirit ever since the Industrial Revolution. What are sheep interested in? Eating, drinking, sleeping, and reproducing. What are the ubiquitous themes of popular culture in the world today? Money, entertainment, and superficial romance. Popular culture keeps people so engrossed in the latest polls, scores, fashions, and shows that they tend to follow the lure of advertising, which is what fuels the modern mass media machine, as mindlessly as sheep make their way to the shearing house. Even the intellectuals have been dumbed down. They too follow the newest trends, simply because they are new and trendy. The phenomenon has even penetrated parts of the church, as some recent church architecture makes clear. This is a problem, because people were never meant to act like sheep. There's a fundamental difference between sheep and people. Sheep are supposed to spend all their time eating, drinking, sleeping, and reproducing. People aren't. People are supposed to think as well. They're supposed to admire the beauties of the universe, understand the world, reflect on their experience, and discover its meaning. This is what makes human beings human. We can develop friendships by sharing our thoughts and aspirations. We can make cultural progress by learning from those who have gone before us. We can achieve interior peace by discovering and living in accordance with moral truth. We can even become holy by penetrating the mystery of God. These are the endeavors unique to the human spirit. Modern culture, however, has tried to pull the plug on this kind of human activity by attacking the most sublime of human capacities, the capacity to discover the truth about things, the capacity to philosophize. This attack has come principally under two forms, hedonism and nihilism. Hedonism doesn't deny that the human mind has the ability to know truth, but it subordinates this ability to the ability to feel pleasure. The hedonistic mindset, which has affected all of us to some extent, seeks happiness in maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain. For the hedonist, the search for truth is set aside in favor of the search for fun. The hedonist's motto is, don't think, just enjoy. Or maybe, don't think too much, just enough to have a really good time. That's not a bad motto for a sheep. Nihilism is more sophisticated. It has a lot of associates like pragmatism, relativism, deconstructionism, and existentialism. Nihilism indirectly denies the human mind's ability to know, because it claims that there is, essentially, nothing to know. There is no ultimate order in the universe, no meaning, no transcendent values, no source of solid truth or lasting goodness. In the face of this transcendent nothingness, the word nihilism is derived from the Latin word for nothing, the human mind is faced with two alternatives. You can either settle for fiddling around with the disconnected bits and pieces of human language, which at least give the impression of knowledge, or else you can launch out on your own and simply create a personal system of meaning from the nothingness that surrounds you. It's a rather self-contradictory approach to put all your trust in the power of your mind to create meaning because it isn't powerful enough to find meaning in the first place. But self-contradiction fits in nicely with nihilism's motto. I do it my way, you do it your way, stay out of the way. Another catchy slogan for an arrogant sheep. This two-front war against reason has unwittingly revived the old Christian heresy of fideism. Fideism also downplays the role of human reason. It doesn't deny the existence of transcendent values, or a wise God, as nihilism does. Nor does it take God and morality out of the picture of human happiness, as hedonism does, but it does belittle the role of reason. Fideism claims that we can know the truth about God and spiritual realities only by faith. Modernism's two-pronged attack, and its fideistic side effect, has done a lot of damage. So much, in fact, that in 1998, Pope John Paul II published an encyclical entitled Faith and Reason in order to initiate a recovery. He explains in the introduction that although the human mind has made considerable progress in many fields throughout the modern era, it has left behind something essential, the search for ultimate truth. As a result, the Pope explains, quote, hence, we see among the men and women of our time, and not just in some philosophers, attitudes of widespread distrust of the human being's great capacity for knowledge. With a false modesty, people rest content with partial and provisional truths, no longer seeking to ask radical questions about the meaning and ultimate foundation of human, personal, and social existence. End quote. He goes on to explain that the modern intellectual enterprise, quote, seems to have forgotten that men and women are always called to direct their steps towards a truth which transcends them. Sundered from that truth, individuals are at the mercy of caprice. It has happened, therefore, that reason, rather than voicing the human orientation towards truth, has wilted under the weight of so much knowledge, and little by little has lost the capacity to lift its gaze to the heights, not daring to rise to the truth of being. End quote. In other words, the attack on reason has made people like sheep, heads down, munching away. Charlie Chaplin was right on track. The unexamined life is not worth living, as Plato said. But modern times have put the examined life out of fashion. The antidote to this dehumanization is philosophy. Not philosophy departments, a lot of which have gone haywire under the influence of anti-reason ideologies, and not any particular philosophical system, like Hegelianism or logical positivism, but real, authentic philosophy. The philosophical enterprise itself, the systematic, reasoned search for the ultimate truths, an enterprise that the Pope calls one of the noblest of human tasks. But in addition to rescuing the nobility of the human spirit from the sheep pen, authentic philosophizing also cleanses and elevates culture as a whole. As the Pope puts it, quote, with its enduring appeal to the search for truth, philosophy has the great responsibility of forming thought and culture, and now it must strive resolutely to recover its original vocation. End quote. For your enrichment, then, as well as to further your mission of building Christ's kingdom and transforming society, it is worth your while to learn how to philosophize. The first step is to drop any prejudices you might have and understand what philosophy is really all about. It tends to have a bad rap, probably due to the preponderance of bad philosophers. Most people associate it with eccentric, bearded professors who dress badly and are out of touch with reality. Neither of those are requirements. In fact, being out of touch with reality is the biggest obstacle to authentic philosophy. The whole point of true philosophy is to understand reality, to understand the way things are, to push the human mind as far as it can go and find the ultimate explanation of things. The wise, behind the hows. Here precisely is the difference between philosophy and science. Science, because it is limited to what can be observed and analyzed by the senses, tracks down the how and the what of physical reality. How do water bugs walk on water? What is the moon made of? Philosophy, on the other hand, embraces all of reality, and it pursues a total understanding of that reality, chasing down the ultimate causes of everything, like a hound chases down a fox, and its method is beyond quantifiability. It uncovers the principles, the truths that underlie every experiment and every existing thing. Principles like those of non-contradiction, finality, and causality, which elucidate the structure of existence itself, and not just the structures of certain existing things. The scientific method of hypothesis and experiment proved so successful in promoting technological progress that, unfortunately, many leading 19th century intellectuals began to think it could be equally successful in every other field of human inquiry, making true philosophy obsolete. That was a mistake, and it spewed out the dehumanizing disaster of modern times. Not everything fits under a microscope or into a mathematical equation. Science can tell us the chemical composition of a good apple, but it can't answer the question, what is goodness? It can indicate the proper physical and chemical conditions for carbon-based life forms, but it can't reveal the meaning of life. Political science can describe how democracy works, and history can give us examples of different political systems, but it's philosophy that ventures further along, asking and answering questions like, what is human society? Why do human beings form societies? What makes for a good or bad society? Philosophy, more than any mere field of study, is an attitude and an activity. Philosophy consists in philosophizing, in engaging reality in a conversation, in questioning reality. True philosophers, whether they happen to be professors or postmen or bankers or bartenders, take up the difficult but rewarding quest to understand the whole truth about all reality, the world, mankind, and God. And that, precisely, is why God gave us minds, so that we could understand things, so that we could come to know reality and appreciate it, and through that knowledge, come to know Him, its Creator, and by knowing Him, come to love Him and live in friendship with Him, which is the only source of lasting happiness. From this perspective as well, you can see how diabolical the attacks on human knowing really are. Nihilism and hedonism, by cutting you off from the truth of things, and by leading the mind down the dead-end street of self-indulgence, either sensual or intellectual, seductively lead you away from God. It is no flippant coincidence that the father of nihilism, Friedrich Nietzsche, was also the author of the most famous phrase in modern anti-philosophy, God is dead. Understanding what philosophy is and why it's important also shows why it not only should but can be an activity that everyone engages in. Wisdom, the interior delight that comes from grasping the truth of things and ordering one's life accordingly, the satisfaction of the hound that catches the fox, is the goal of philosophizing. And wisdom has never been the exclusive property of professors and ivory tower recluses. God wants you to be wise. That's why He gave you a mind. But there are other forces who would prefer you to be a well-fed fool, a clever but docile consumer, a sheep. Part 2 of the talk on philosophy will examine the 3 tools of the true philosopher, the ones that will help you break further and further away from the mindless flock crowding its way into the slaughterhouse. And that's some straight talk about true philosophy.
You have been listening to The Catholic Perspective, a resource from rcspirituality.org. Please visit our website and check out more great resources to help you pray, learn, grow, and go. Please join our team of digital missionaries by subscribing at rcspirituality.org.